Welcome, Chris. We're so fortunate to have you here today.
Thanks a lot. I should probably know what hand signal are horn frogs, but I can't keep them all straight. So what is this one?
So we go peace sign.
All right, there we go.
So peace sign, angry.
Angry.
Angry peace sign.
Let's go frogs.
Yeah, not this. I mean, that's another school. We don't talk about that one. But thank you for learning that.
Yeah.
And that's an outstanding jacket, by the way. That's, as you can see, we try hard here. But you win
with
this
my
one.
purple frog.
With the purple
Thank you
frog.
very much.
Thank you. I'd like to start with your background, if I may. Actually, what I should start with originally is you have made my 9-year-old think more of me this morning. Thank you. I take my son Patrick to school, and we were walking in and talking about what we're doing today. I was saying, I'm interviewing someone. Oh, who's that? Oh, an astronaut. An astronaut. Wow. So, thank you.
It doesn't work for my own kids, right? They want to talk to the fireman and the police officer, not the astronaut.
It's we all have a long way to go to get to where you are. Yeah. So I'd like to start with your background, if I may, and what an amazing background. We've all seen Captain Cassidy's CV and resume. I was speaking with my family. I was talking with my wife about this last night. She didn't actually believe that it was capable to do all the things that you've done. Just to recap, so you've got a master's degree from MIT, you're a decorated Navy SEAL, you're an astronaut, then the chief astronaut. I didn't know there was such a thing, but that's impressive. Now you're in charge of this stunning new museum that showcases the United States' highest military award. So I think we all see a lot of CVs and resumes in our jobs, and I've never seen a better one. In a recent interview, you described your earlier self as I think you said you were a naive 17-year-old from my little bubble in a small town in Maine. So how did that 17-year-old get here?
Well, it's just interesting how life unfolds when you're walking through it and you've got great mentors and people guiding you. And what I personally love about the military journey, and I saw a lot of fellow veterans stand up, is every one of our experiences in the military has a beginning and an end. And it doesn't matter the distance in time between those two dots, if it's 5 years or 10 or 30. But those dots are connected by lines that are different for everybody, but all common in that they're filled with rich experiences, rich friendships, and just a sense of pride that you have for having an American flag on the side of your uniform. And the 17-year-old naive kid didn't know that and didn't appreciate that. Somebody encouraged me to tell this story about getting into the Naval Academy, which some of you may have heard before, but for me, it's fundamental to who I am, because I was trying to figure out how to pay for college. Half this room doesn't remember this, but there was a place called the guidance counselor's office that had big, thick books on it, and you flipped through, and that was the old school internet way of looking at colleges. And I was doing that and saw a picture of the Naval Academy and cool buildings on a neat setting on the river in Maryland, sharp-looking men and women in uniform, and I was drawn to it. And I read a little bit more, and it's free to go there. You just have to be in the military afterwards. And I didn't know what be in the military afterwards really meant. I just you be in it. I don't know. What do you do? I don't know. I'm in it. And I wanted to be an NBA basketball referee because I knew I couldn't play well enough to get in it. So that was kind of where I was wanting to go. But I thought, okay, I'll do a brief stop with this military to help pay for college. And here's the story I wanted to share. And that in that page, it said you had to apply to your congressman's office to get in. So I did that, and I went to the interview with the congressman's staff in Augusta, Maine, the state capital, and the interview went fine. At the end, the woman said, "Okay, good job. We'll take it from here, Chris." And this is fall of my senior year in high school, and so I believed the authoritative person saying, "We got it. You don't have to worry about a thing." So fast forward to the spring of senior year in high school, and finding out from other schools the thick or the thin envelope if I was in or not, but nothing from the Naval Academy. So finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I picked up the phone, called the admissions office, and a very helpful person said, "Yeah, I can help you out, no problem. What's your name?" I tell her my name. I hear files rummaging through on the side. "Can you spell that for me?" I spell it, more files. "What's your social security number?" more files. I'm sorry, we've got nothing on you. Turns out I missed a key piece of instruction bad on me, that you have to apply to the school and the congressman's office at the same time. So here it is late in the year. I hadn't really applied to the place I wanted to go to. But this is where it gets interesting, because my best friend and I had planned to join his father on a business trip to Washington, D.C. the next week, which was our spring vacation. And my buddy and I were going to go with his dad and just do tourist stuff while his dad was working. And so we did that. And then I took an afternoon and drove over to Annapolis, which is a half hour from the Naval Academy, and went to the admissions office. And the same woman recognized my story, and I recognized her voice. And she said, "Oh, you're in luck. Captain Melillo, Marine Corps captain, he's the New England region admissions counselor, and he happens to be in his office right now. You can go down and see him. He's free." So I walked down the hall, turned the corner, and there's the poster child Marine. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, like guns busting out of his sleeves, shoes you can see your reflection in, haircut, jaw, square jaw, the whole deal. I'm like, whoa, never seen a human like this before. And but I realized, okay, I got to tell my story to this guy, and if I want to go here. And so I tell him, total time in his office, handful of minutes, 5-6 minutes. And he snorted and grunted and dragged his knuckles like Marines do. And he's like, okay, I understand. Let me get back to you. So I leave, go home, thinking, all right, well, at least I can sleep soundly at night, but I got to come up with plan B, because clearly I'm not going there. A couple days later, I'm in school. I get a phone call paged to the main office in school, and it's him. "Hey, Cassidy, I got good news. I can get you into Naval Academy Prep School, but I need an answer right here on the phone if you want it or not." And I didn't know anything about the prep school, where it was, time commitment, nothing. But I just kind of felt like, okay, this is a door that's a little bit ajar, and what side do you want to be on it when it closes? So, yes, sir, I'm in. Thank you. And I tell that story not to poke fun at Marines, but because if it wasn't for him giving me a gift of an opportunity, I don't think you and I would be talking right now today. Because of him, I got to go to the Naval Academy Prep School, which is 1 year in Newport, Rhode Island. If you maintain certain grades, you automatically go to the Service Academy. While I was at the Service Academy, I met my first Navy SEAL, real person. I didn't know what Navy SEALs were in my little town. And they were impressive, this cadre of staff there, and guided myself and my classmates who were interested in it. I found that as a career path. About 5 or 6 years into my SEAL journey, I met Bill Shepard, who was the first Navy SEAL to become an astronaut, and he, again, exposed me to the opportunity that you can apply, anybody can apply. He encouraged me and mentored me. And then 28 years later, wrapped up my military career with some space experience and some SEAL experience, and found myself lucky enough to be in Arlington, Texas, and be part of the project to get this going. And I reflect back on that, it's all because one person gave a young man an opportunity. And I think that's really important in this crowd, because a lot of young faces out there, you are looking for your Captain Melillo, maybe you have them, and for the folks that are our age, we maybe have been Captain Melillo ourselves, or didn't even know that we changed somebody's life. And in the case of my story, he really gave me opportunity to do to experience all those things. Want to hear a fun closeout to that whole story? In 2020, I was my last space flight, and we were having a launch party for our closest friends and my family, about 200 people, sort of a room like this. And leading up to it, my wife kept asking me, "What are you going to tell everybody before you go?" And I'm looking at her like she's crazy, because she never asked me that, and it's my closest friends and family. I'm just going to say, "I don't know, I love you all, I'll see you in 6 months." And she's like, "No, you should tell the Captain Melillo story." So I do, and I get to the punchline, and she stopped me, and she said, "Hold on, Captain Melillo, will you please stand up?" She had tracked him down like 25 years later and invited him to this thing. He thought she was a cuckoo brain that was calling her, finally convinced her that he was real. And so I got to hug him, shake his hand, say thank you for a lifetime of opportunities.
What a beautiful story.
Yeah.
It's inspiring on so many levels. I think it's inspiring for those who are at the start of their career. because it indicates that there are paths to things that you didn't think were possible. But what I especially take from that is, to the extent that we can serve as Captain Melillos, we can change people's lives.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring. So when you were that 17-year-old, if someone were to lay out what your career eventually became, how much of that would you recognize as something that you thought, oh, I would like to be this person, and how much was fortune or happenstance or things that happened unexpectedly?
Well, I know I would have been very intimidated and scared, and like, there's no possible way that I can march on that path. And at each step of the way, like when I first became an astronaut, I was looking around at my astronaut colleagues. There's 11 of us were selected in that year. It's usually 10 to 15 astronauts selected every 4 years. And we had 3 Japanese astronauts, and I was very intimidated because they were all amazingly smart and talented. And I had like this imposter syndrome of, what am I doing here? Same thing when I was on my first crew. And back up even, when I got out of SEAL training and was on my first SEAL team, there's experienced senior chiefs and master chiefs that had been SEALs for 30 years, and now I'm a young junior officer in charge of those guys. It was like, who am I kidding? Like, what am I doing here? So each of those steps in the way, and to some degree when I became the president of the Medal of Honor Foundation, like, I've never led a nonprofit before. You have these kind of feelings of, am I ready for this? But what I've realized in life is, people don't put you in those positions if they don't believe in you, and if they don't think that you have the skills to be successful, and you just have to let it happen and let yourself be successful and let the team be successful. So I would have, to answer your question directly, been super, super intimidated about somebody saying, you're going to do all this stuff. I'd be like, no, give me a whistle. I'm going to go be a basketball referee.
There's still time, you know.
But each step of those things makes you ready.
It's very cool. Actually, maybe I can follow up on a piece of that. I want to get your views on leadership generally, and I have a couple of questions there, but maybe we could start with something about how and when you first felt like people were recognizing leadership qualities in you, whether this was high school or whether this was in college. Do you have an example of when you felt that somebody recognized that leadership potential and helped bring that out of you?
Maybe sometimes in high school and sports teams, in things, but I don't think I recognized that at that point. It was just kind of being a kid and being a teammate and that sort of thing. Probably when I was a senior at the Naval Academy, so the military academies are broken up into companies. There's 4,000 people at the Naval Academy, for example, 36 companies, and each company has all 4 years of students, freshmen through seniors, and the seniors are the kind of the company leadership, and there's a company commander. And the fall of my senior year, I was assigned to be the company commander, and that was probably the first time that I thought, these are all my friends and my buddies, and now I'm in charge.
Did you apply for that, or
no,
somebody picked you?
Somebody said, hey, Chris, go to the captain's office at noon. I'm like, what do I do?
Sorry to have interrupted there if you had more to say about that.
Yeah.
Well, can we talk about leadership a little bit more generally? And this is something that we care about as a society. Business schools, we care about it immensely. We talk about it. As Les said, I study leadership. I find it intriguing. One very broad version of a debate within leadership research and writing, you might call the generational versus the situational. And so one end of this, or one side of this, is the belief that there are a set of characteristics or factors that are universally applicable across situation, time, space. Leadership effectiveness is always better if you have these characteristics. And then there's another view that leadership is almost entirely situational, that it depends very much on the specifics of the person and the relationship and the group and so on. I think you're in a wonderful position to be able to help us to understand that. You've led effectively and in a very highly charged environments across a couple of different areas that are quite distinct. So you've done so in the military and space, and now in the corporate world or in the non-profit world. So can I start on the generalist side? do you think there are factors that contribute to leadership effectiveness that are pretty universal, that have applied in every situation that you've been in?
Yes.
All right.
You want
We'd
more
love to hear
expand on that? Oh, okay. Well,
that could
talk
be the
about
answer.
that.
That'd be great. Here's my next question.
So certainly trust is the bedrock of all of that. And what to expand on that a little bit, I have realized now as a civilian leader that leadership is about people and people trying to align to do a mission. And at face value, SEALs running around mountains of Afghanistan, astronauts trying to stay alive in a harsh environment space, and a bunch of people trying to raise money to build a building, 3 totally different deals. But at the end of the day, it's a group of people together trying to align to accomplish a mission that put their pants on, shave, or put their makeup on in the morning and wake up and nobody says, I'm going to be a crummy worker today. Everybody's like wants to do a good job, and it's the organization and the leadership job to let that happen. So it's just aligning the people's efforts so the oars are all pointing the boat in the right direction, and the oars are pulling in sequence to get the most out of the energy. So that part, I think, is very universal. And the trust part is something that must be worked on and generated and demonstrated so that everybody believes in the organizational leadership, that you're going to be there to help them when they need to be properly resourced or supported or whatever.
Mm. What sort of actions do you take to ensure that those who work for you and with your group, they trust you, they trust the entity?
Fundamental is to get a good coffee machine in the office. And once you tackle that, it's open field running. But I think just doing what you say you're going to do, and if you can't do what you said you were going to do, explain why the situation has changed. And the other thing I've kind of realized in complex operational environments like SEALs or spaceflight, there's like this speed of decision making that is a variable. If you're sitting in the corporate boardroom and you're talking about strategy for 5 years from now, you don't have to decide before the coffee break what the answer is. You've got the luxury of time. Whereas if you're getting shot at and there's chaos raining down on you, you need a decision like right now. If it's 75% good enough, just do it and adjust the knobs when you're over there safe, and maybe you have to rearrange your decision based on changing priorities. But so there's a component of decision-making / leadership that I think has to do with the stress and the time required. And that part is where the prep work of trust building and teamwork, and just in a sports analogy, everybody knowing what their job is. So when it gets crazy, you just do your job and know that you're doing your job, I'm doing my job, you're doing your job, and then we sort it out when the dust settles. Mm-hmm. But if you wait in those tight timeline situations for a more perfect answer, that's a worse situation.
So maybe that transitions to the other side, the situationalist. So if I were to ask you to think about, maybe I'll combine NASA and your experience with the SEALs and then your current job. Do you see some elements of leadership that are more likely to be helpful over here, or more likely to be helpful over here? So something that does depend on context, situation, people, because those are quite distinct environments.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a culture part of situations in organizations. If I tried to apply leadership of 25-year-old hard-charging Navy SEALs to my team, two of them sitting over there at that table, they'd be like, this dude is freaking nuts. So you need to understand the culture of where you're at. So that's some part of it. But I think by and large, it's very similar traits. And what I would say is just be yourself is the most important thing, because what the leaders I saw fail in the SEAL teams, particularly at the junior level, right out of SEAL training, showing up, and now they're in charge of these 20-year enlisted SEAL veterans, where they tried to be somebody that they weren't, and they tried to be what they thought those people wanted, And I had a really, really sage chief petty officer that he and I worked together when I was a brand new ensign. Ensign is the most junior rank in the Navy as an officer. And he really kind of enlightened me, like, you let us do our job. You need to represent us up and out, and we'll tell you, just trust us to get all the stuff done, and you give us this kind of guidance and task and purpose, and we're here, and we'll get it done. You don't have to worry about this. And you know, he gave me great advice. Like sometime, particularly in the SEAL teams, I saw some young officers want to go out and drink all night long with the enlisted guys, and then it got really blurry when it came for harder situations, other hours. And this senior chief, Chief Slinger, he told me, "Sir, your job is to have one beer with us and then be gone." I was like, "Roger that, Chief." And so that was fantastic. You know, and what he was saying was, get to know your people, really appreciate them for human beings, know their personal situation, wife's kids, whatever the situation is. But you don't have to be everybody's best friend.
That's good advice. If we were to ask a member of your team, your current team, or those that you led, to describe you as a leader, what would they say? Yeah, I don't know. I strive to, when I was a young professional, I really appreciated it when the leadership gave the objectives, and there's this concept called commander's intent in the military, where you understand what the overall objectives are, you understand what your left and right boundaries are. If you have to go beyond those boundaries, it's not your decision to make. You've got to come back and check in with leadership. But in this middle part, you can be free to run around to get the mission done. And so I really appreciated leadership that gave that direction, gave the resources that they thought required, whether that's people or money or equipment, and then just let me and the team go for it. And that developed trust, because when that happened, I felt like the leaders trusted me, and it grew and grew and grew on my vision of that leader. Like, I really respect this person, and would go through a brick wall for them. So that's my hope, is what I try to do with the people that I work with now, is to just let them be as successful, because they're all talented people. Right. I like that idea. Commander's intent, is that what you said?
It's a wonderful concept, yeah. You don't have to prescribe how you get to the answer, but here's what we're trying to get to. Yeah. These are the things I don't want you to violate, but otherwise just get us there.
Wonderful. I want to talk just a little bit about teamwork in particular, and that's something that you clearly have a lot of experience with. One thing that I'm intrigued by is the experience that you had in space. So my understanding is you've spent, 378 days in space. You spent 6 months commanding a mission on the International Space Station. Now, I don't think many of us have been on the International Space Station, but I've got to assume that it's an environment characterized by a lot of isolation and confinement and physical challenges there. But it's interesting in that there's a sort of a local, and then you're also working with sort of head office in a sense. And I wondered whether there's some parallels to a lot of what many people in this room are doing. They manage and they deal with remote teams. Do you have any insights for us about what you've learned through working in space for those of us who are managing teams that are physically, geographically removed?
Yeah. So there's a whole lot to unpack there, but because there's a lot of parallels and similarities. So just real quick about the physical size, the space station's actually a pretty big thing. It's about the size of, the simplest way to picture it is about 8 or 9 school buses, mostly nose to butt, a couple sideways and a couple up and down. So it's long and long and skinny. So you can spend a whole day and not see your crewmates if you're off doing an experiment in some corner.
Chancellor Bashini's house is very similar.
Very similar, yeah. But you're always on the radio with people in the mission control centers around the world, so you feel connected in a communication way. We can call any phone number we want. The problem is anymore, nobody answers their damn telephone, because if the number's not in there, nobody answers it. So I love leaving messages, and sorry, I'm not calling you again, but you just missed your chance to talk to somebody from the space station. But it's the best deal ever, because nobody can call you. You can call them. And they don't know when the satellite is going to lose signal. So if you're kind of done with the conversation, you're like, oh man, this has been great. We're going to lose the signal in 10 seconds. Talk to you in a few months. But so the communication part, you feel very connected with the folks down there. And I've been on the space station several times. On my shuttle mission, there were 13 of us for 2 weeks there. On my second mission in 2013, we were up there for 6 months, and there were 6 of us the whole time. We rotated out some people at different times. And then my last mission in 2020, it was me and 2 Russian dudes for the whole time. We did have 2 visiting people from a SpaceX capsule for a brief period in the middle, but by and large, it was just 3 of us for the whole time. So when it was 3 of us and 2 Russians, I was the only person on the U.S. side of the space station. And the space station is split in half. Right in the middle is the Russian compartment on the back, we call it the aft side, and the forward side of the space station are all the U.S. components. And it makes good sense that the Russians take care of maintenance on the Russian side, and the U.S. people take care of the maintenance on the U.S. side. So I was the only person on the U.S. side, and so I was by myself most of the day, which was fine with me. And then the way we did it is we would have a group dinner every Friday. It gets to be, not to get in the weeds, but we live by Greenwich Mean Time, London time. Moscow's a couple hours ahead of that, so when they want to call their families, they need to do it in our duty morning. Mm-hmm. And Houston is several hours behind Greenwich Mean Time, so when we want to call our families, we do it at nighttime, our nighttime, so it's the afternoon for them. So because of the phone calls, it sounds really weird, but because of that time zone thing, it's inconvenient to have dinner always together, because you're always wanting to call each other's folks. So we would have a designated Friday night dinner, and that would be our crew time together. Your question that I haven't answered is the remote nature and coordinating back and forth. The biggest thing that I found frustrating, we find frustrating as astronauts, is when you feel like the mission control guys are disconnected from what you're really doing there. Like if they're giving an experiment and you're supposed to hook the blue wire to the blue wire, but there's no second blue wire, and they keep telling you, no, there should be another blue. Well, I'm telling you, there's not.
I'm here. There's no blue wire.
Yeah, I'm here. There's no blue wire. So it's kind of painting the picture so that there's empathy on both sides. Because also, I've been in mission control where the crew had complete, I don't want to say disregard, but just non-situationally aware of what the realities. Maybe it's political. Maybe it's whatever, you fill in the blank with some reason, that why they're asking you to do this thing, which might seem kind of a crazy request. And the way we would work around it is, so the radio on the space station is open source. Anybody that has the radio frequency can listen to it, or the 6 people that watch NASA TV hear it. But we can make those phone calls, and I would just call the flight director directly, privately, and say, hey, is there a rationale for why you're asking? Because let me just tell you, it doesn't make any sense. And we would work it out that way, and then kind of tell the crew. So I would just say that there's got to be empathy on both sides, the remote people and the kind of command and control element, for lack of a better word, to make sure you know what the realities are in the remote world and what the realities are in the leadership side, management side.
I love the line, we need empathy on both sides. I think we'd have a better
kind of
world.
Applies to our country too, right?
There's so much. I think we'd all be in a better place if we could do that a little bit more effectively. I want to give some time for questions, but I want to make sure that we have a few minutes to talk about your current gig. Those who haven't been, who's been to the National Medal of Honor Museum? All right, and those of you who have, you will know, I was fortunate to go. There was an event hosted by Frostbank and Hadley Werner, which I was honored to go to in the spring. It is an amazing experience. As you can tell, I'm a funny talker. I didn't grow up in this place. I'm Australian, but the impact of going in is it really brings home to you viscerally what it means to be in a situation where you could win a Medal of Honor. There's something in there, you would describe it better than me, there's something in there saying, this is the worst day of these people's lives. And you see exactly what that means. And I've never gone through anything that's 100th of what these people did, but you can empathize. The museum does a wonderful job of that. It emphasizes this idea of you gain this thing for conspicuous gallantry, and I came to appreciate what conspicuous means. So congratulations on just a wonderful experience. Can you just tell us a little bit about the museum? What would you like us to know?
At the high level, it's a treasure for the country. We here in the Metroplex are the caretakers of it. It is a national treasure, and we believe that to our core. And it's a place where stories are told of regular Americans, just like all of us in the room, who did something extraordinary on a day when action needed to happen. That's really what we're all about, is telling those stories. And I see Becky over here from Lindbeck. I got to give a shout out to Lindbeck for being the amazing construction partners and build a really, really super complicated structure, because that super complicated structure is a visual icon that I think in due time the rest of the nation will see it and realize that it symbolizes what the values of the Medal of Honor are, and it happens to be here in the middle of the country in the DFW Metroplex.
It's an amazing building.
Yeah.
As you drive up to it, it feels like Star Trek. You think, how does this stay up? Presumably it does stay up. Thank you, Lindbeck, for making sure that's possible. If it doesn't, we're coming to you.
It's not watertight yet, but no, I'm kidding, Becky.
So something specific I know that we'd be interested in your insights on relates to community. So community engagement is a very important thing for us here at TCU in the Neeley School of Business. We've just released a big, very ambitious 10-year strategic plan at the university level. There are 4 pillars, and one of those pillars is community engagement. I feel the same about the Neeley School of Business. We believe that we need to be engaged with our community, part of our community. It's a two-way street. I think that we contribute and the community contributes to us. Can you tell us a little bit about how you think about the importance of community relations? This is a central thing, I'm sure, in your job, especially being new here. How do you think about this, and what insights do you have for us?
Well, true exposure to it, to the power of the community, is sort of new to me to the last 4 years of my life. I lived in a suburb of Houston in Clear Lake area where the Johnson Space Center is, and I was telling some people before breakfast, I couldn't have told you who the mayor was. I couldn't have told you who the city council members were, because it just was they weren't the type of community that I found exists here in Arlington and Fort Worth and Dallas. And seeing what can be accomplished with a clear vision for what the community wants to be, and business leaders aligned with the city leadership, what can be accomplished in that is quite extraordinary. Arlington, I haven't been part of that community only for 4 years, but it wasn't that long ago where it had a really, really old baseball stadium before the ballpark, right, and maybe had a gas station or something on the way for people going between Fort Worth and Dallas. But bit by bit, with a vision of the Rangers coming and then building the ballpark and then building Globe Life Field and adding Texas Live and then Live by Lowe's, and all of that, I'm using Arlington as a case study, but all of that is because the community said, hey, we want an identity, and let's work together to make this happen. And then they saw the opportunity for a Medal of Honor Museum, and we added that, and now there's a convention center. So that is the power of what the community can do, and being part of that, this is now me personally, walking into that environment was really eye-opening. Like, wow, this is really super powerful. There's small business leaders, large business leaders like Frost Bank and others that all support in a collective mission. So it's truly, truly important aspect of business, and being part of that is really neat to see.
Yeah. Any advice for us as we embark on strengthening our own community partnerships?
Make your list longer when you introduce the sponsors next year. Yeah.
I would be delighted. But that would make us happy. One thing that I wonder if you could speak on, and then I'm going to go to these questions from the audience, relates to the idea of career transition. This is something that we're seeing more and more. I mean, the statistics are pretty clear that we're less and less likely to be in one job for a long period of time. You're probably the poster child of being able to engage in career transitions successfully. How do you think about that issue?
Well, you don't know about opportunities until you know about them. Mm-hmm. And that sounds stupid, but I didn't know that there was an entity looking for a president of a Medal of Honor museum. A buddy of mine who's on the board of directors knew that I was retiring and called and said, hey, there's an opportunity here, would you be interested? So that's just an example of, I think those cool opportunities are usually brought to you through connections of people and folks that know who you are and what your skill set is and what you could bring as a success to whatever the thing is. LinkedIn and Indeed, all those are great places to find opportunities, but, and I'm speaking just totally my own opinion, I bet you the higher success of a job sticking in a transition is when somebody who knows you and knows the organization and knows that there's a need to connect those two, that's probably a higher success rate.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Let's move to a couple of questions from the audience. I love this first one, so congrats to whoever wrote this. How has your perspective on Earth and humanity changed after looking at our planet from space?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot, and for me, like, I was never a crunchy granola eating, Birkenstock wearing, dope smoking Earth lover, but I came to truly appreciate the planet. Looking down and seeing the beauty of planet Earth and the blue and green and white clouds and the skinny, skinny, skinny little atmosphere that keeps us all alive, it made me an Earth-conscious person. And just out of mechanical brain way of thinking about it, your car needs maintenance, your hot water heater needs maintenance. Earth is a machine and it needs to be maintained and taken care of, and if we don't, we could screw it up. So it made me way more in tune to the planet.
Nice. Reminds me of, have you seen the Carl Sagan, the pale blue dot?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you haven't, it's worth looking up. It's a photo taken from a long, long, long way from Earth, and there's this tiny little thing that's us, and you do get a sort of an overwhelming sense of awe. I'm sure the same thing occurs.
Yeah.
Who's a leader that you look up to, and why?
So probably those experienced senior enlisted SEALs that I looked up to when I first got in. Mike Chief Slinger is a good example. I talked about him. They were fundamental to me, and so at a very micro Chris level, that's somebody that I'm so appreciative of giving me the tools to be successful, both as a SEAL but also in life. And then, I think now that I'm in the Medal of Honor role, really appreciating President Lincoln for the challenges that he had, and I'm aware of him more because of the Medal of Honor, but thinking about the position that he was in when the country was in a civil war and somebody had to be the leader to galvanize the whole nation, tremendous respect for that.
Do you study leadership at all? Do you read about it? You probably don't have any time to do anything.
No, I have time. We all have time, right? I watch Jerry Jones' Netflix show. So I'm guilty of watching TV and sports, and I'm so thankful that it's the fall and football's back on TV, but I do love Rangers games. So I don't read as much, probably, as I would like to or do. Kind of, I like to exercise when I come home and then just kind of plop down and switch my brain off. So, but I'm reading right now a book by a guy named General Nordy Schwartz, who I served in the military in the same time when he was a leader, and I thought he was an awesome leader, and that's the book I'm reading right now.
Have you thought about writing something yourself? I think a lot of people would read it.
It's funny you should ask that, because I know I don't have the skills to do the actual writing, and so getting partnered with somebody to help me write it would be a thing. And I think I found that a person recently that I could actually spend hours and hours talking to.
Nice.
And
it's called Claude or ChatGPT or something like that.
All right, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Write Chris Cassidy's book.
Yeah. We should. It's surprising how effective that would be. I know we would love to read that if and when that comes out. I like this one. Do you have a funny story from space?
There's several of them.
Anything you can tell here.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is a good one.
This is a good one.
This is a good one. So your days are very scheduled, and the ground team in Mission Control plans out your day, and it's plotted out to the 5-minute granularity, and they do their best to figure out how long a job is going to take. And so you're constantly kind of, we call it fighting the red line. It's not Outlook, but it's like the horizontal start of work, end of work, and there's a red line that moves in real time across. And your jobs are linear in there, and so you're constantly trying to make sure you're done with the previous job before the red line gets to the next job. And so I was doing exactly that. This was in 2013, and I was up there with Karen Nyberg, an American astronaut, Luca Parmitano, an Italian astronaut, and then 3 cosmonauts. And so I'm doing an experiment, and I'm busy, and I'm looking, I got to be on NASA TV in like 5 minutes, and I'm almost done with this experiment. I didn't want to have to come back to it after the NASA TV portion, and I had to go to the bathroom in there, and I'm like, oh God, and I finally got the experiment cleaned up, and there was about 90 seconds left until the live hit, and I needed to change my shirt. I had a few things to do. And so I zipped down. When you get good at floating in space, you can really move fast. And to go into the bathroom, it's all about controlling your momentum. Business school doesn't know what the word momentum is, but if I go to another building, they'll be nodding their heads like, oh, momentum, yeah, we got you. So you grab a handrail, and you can kind of use your momentum to just spin you into the toilet, which is a small little stall. And I do exactly that. And keep in mind, live on NASA TV in 87 seconds from now. And I turn the corner, and I fly into the bathroom, and this like thing of wet stuff goes over my face, and I can't see. And I'm like, what the heck? And I'm like trying to get it off. And then I realize it's a pair of jogging shorts with the mesh liner just on my face, completely saturated. And my buddy Luca Parmitano, the Italian astronaut, he's a super sweaty exerciser. And he had just finished his jogging session, and his gym shorts, he forgot to take them out. Because we had a female crewmate, we would go in and change, get naked in the confines of the bathroom, and he forgot to take his wet shorts out. And so I had these disgusting sweat jogging shorts all over my face and my hair, and I'm getting them off, and I'm putting on my collared shirt to be on NASA TV, and Luca goes flying by, he's all clean, and I come out of the bathroom, and I see him, and the camera's right there, and I'm like, the red light goes on, and it's live on NASA TV, and I'm like, Luca! Hi, I'm Chris Cassidy, live on the International Space Station. Oh my God, I about threw up.
When you said that you were covered in liquid, I think we were wondering if it was going in a different direction.
No.
So that wasn't as bad as we thought it could have been. So
yeah.
And thank you, Luca, wherever you are today. It's probably sweating at the moment.
Probably sweating at the moment.
Sweating. I like this one. Since taking over as the president of the Medal of Honor Museum, what's the biggest unexpected challenge that you faced right off the bat? Also, Sync Navy.
So, the Army guy out there.
Somebody.
So raising money was a thing right off the bat for me, for us. And honestly, if I'd have known how big and scary a number like 250 million was when I accepted the job, luckily for them, I was too stupid to know that was a big, hairy number. But how do we get there? And the enlightening part was that it's about relationship building. It's about articulating the mission and why something can be supported. And I realized too in that process that there's so many awesome causes out there, and there's so many ways that people can give their philanthropic energy, whether that's time or money. It's just a personal decision on that company or that person where they want to give that. So it's the job of in our case the fundraisers and myself to just say, hey, this is us. So the mission matters, but also the trust matters too. If they don't believe that you're going to do right by the gift or the support, then they're going to give it elsewhere. So that was the biggest eye-opening thing for me, was it's really about trust and relationships, and then the support will happen when it does.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
In an increasingly diverse world, what leadership skills have you relied on to most effectively engage with different communities and different perspectives? You must have some great insights on this.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that just understanding, here locally, there's a good example. Are you east of 360 or west of 360? And I'm joking, but serious. You know, you need to know what environment you're in and who you're talking to, and that is a huge skill that it seems easy enough, but I've seen people kind of not have a good situational awareness of what environment they're in, and it can go wrong.
Okay. Let's do one last one, and then we'll give you the opportunity to give us any final thoughts that you have. Is there a situation where you had to use different aspects of leadership and do the right thing when it was difficult?
Yeah, we had, so way back to my SEAL platoon days, I was a member of SEAL Team 3, which was deploying to the Middle East. That was our region that we would deploy to. And the way the Navy is structured, you go overseas for 6 months, you're together for 2 years as a unit. The preceding 18 months is individual training and your unit training and your unit training with other units, and then you go overseas. And so we were in this 18-month training cycle pre-9/11, and we had one member of our platoon who was sort of like, here's the line of performance, and he was teetering right on the good side and the bad side, just sort of there. And everybody thinks, all Navy SEALs are created equal. No, just like every business, you got people who rise to the top and other ones that need a little more help. And this guy was just one of those that need a little more help. And he had a few kind of what we considered safety type errors. But it was peacetime, and this is, it could be the wrong judgment, but in peacetime, myself and the chief were like, well, he'll be all right. We can coach him along and bring him along. He'll probably be fine. And then 9/11 happened right before we deployed, and we knew we were stepping off an aircraft and going right into combat. And so it became a real question, like right then, like September 12th. Do we bring this guy with us or not? And here he is. He's made it through SEAL training, BUDS. He's made it through all the advanced training, albeit just right there on the line. And he's made it through platoon workups with us. But nobody in the unit trusts him. No, we don't assign him any jobs that we really want done. And so it was the hardest decision I ever had to make as a small unit leader was to sit him down, look him in the eye, and say, you're not coming with us. And he was heartbroken. It was a whole, that's what, it sounds funny. It's not because SEALs or military guys want to go to war, but it's what you train for. So when the opportunity to do it presents itself, you want to go and you want to be part with your buddies that are going. And it was heartbreaking for him, heartbreaking for us to tell him no, but it was the right thing. And yeah.
I think it's a really good story. It speaks to what you were talking about earlier about the empathy that's necessary to be in your role. I want to, we're almost done. Do you have any final thoughts or comments or words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience?
No magical words of insight, but let me just share what it's like to do a spacewalk real quick for a few minutes, because you, to get to space, you have to launch, and to come back to our lovely planet, you have to re-enter the atmosphere. Both of those things are super cool, and I could talk for hours about all those experiences. But when you're up there, you're orbiting Earth, and we're inside the space station for, our whole time. But every now and then, you have to go outside to fix a broken thing or to install new capability or an experiment or something. And it's a challenging, risky job to go outside to do a spacewalk, so we don't do them all the time. As the jobs build up, we wait till they accumulate to fill a full work day of spacewalking, and then we do a spacewalk. So to give you an idea, in a 6-month period, maybe 2 or 3 spacewalks happen. And we generally do them close together because there's a lot of overhead involved in getting the team ready, both on the ground and space, to do it. And inside the spacesuit, our bodies are at feel the equivalent altitude of about Mount Everest. That's the pressure that our bodies are inside the spacesuit. And if you've ever read mountain climbing books, or maybe yourself, most people use pure oxygen at those altitudes. So we have pure oxygen inside the spacesuit, and you can't just go to that altitude and be fine. You have to do this acclimatization process. And so when it's a spacewalk day, we go to bed the night before in the airlock, and they reduce the pressure, so you sleep at a reduced pressure, and then you put the spacesuit on at about 7 in the morning, and you don't open the hatch until about noon. And those 5 hours, you're doing different pressure protocols and a little bit of exercise to circulate any possible nitrogen bubbles and all these things. So it's a huge process to get to the moment where it's time to open the door. And you're 250 miles above the surface of the Earth. You're going around the planet at 5 miles a second, so 90 minutes it takes to orbit the Earth. So 45 of those minutes you're in the bright sun, and then boom, you go around the corner and you're in the pitch dark for 45 minutes, and then boom, the light comes back on, and you're just doing this over and over. And so it's finally time to open the hatch. And it takes a few minutes for the pressure to decrease to the point where you can open the hatch. And on my first spacewalk, I was partnered with a very experienced guy who'd done a number of spacewalks. And right before we put our helmets on, and he goes, "Hey, remember, below 2 psi, pounds of pressure, it's the death zone." Helmet goes on. I'm like, what? What kind of advice is that? So the pressure starts dropping. We get below 5. So right now we're about 14 pounds of pressure. The pressure gets below 5 pounds of pressure, and now the suit kind of has some alarms and things, and you cycle through those. And then it gets to 2 pounds of pressure, and I'm looking at the gauge like, okay, we're here. We're in the death zone. And then it gets to 0, and somebody says, "Okay, guys, you go to open the hatch." And you reach your hand out. And I remember having this so the airlock is really small, and one person's head is inside, and that's the valve and switch guy or gal. And one person's head is the other direction, so the other guy's feet are here and my head's here. And that person is the hatch person. And back to the point of understanding in the remote world versus the real world, somebody in the real world put the hatch to the airlock on the floor. So you open it, and you're looking right at the ground, 250 miles. It would have been way better to put it in the ceiling. So you just look up, and you don't see the scary Earth below you, because your brain still thinks like you're going to fall, like you're a human being that's going to fall down and come crashing into the clouds. So I remember my hand reaching out, grabbing the hatch, lifting it open, and seeing the Earth below, and you're just like frozen because it's very scary. And my buddy, a really good buddy, not Dave, who told me that scary advice, he said, "When you get to that moment, wiggle your toes." And I didn't know what he meant until that moment, and you just kind of wiggle your toes and realize, okay, everything's going to be fine, and you get on with the spacewalk. But that initial moment of seeing the planet below with nothing but a visor in front of you was super scary, but also just such a proud moment to realize that you're representing the country, you're representing a lot of hard work of the people in Mission Control Center, and you're out there to get the job done. And yeah, really, really fun. I wish everybody could experience it, because it gives you a unique view of our planet that is a really special thing. So thank you.
Well, you described it superbly, and I can't think of a better way to finish the conversation with that story. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everybody for joining us for this event. Hope to see you in about 6 weeks when we'll be here again. In the meantime, I wonder if you're joining me in thanking Captain Chris Cassidy. You're an amazing human being, an amazing leader.
Thank you.
And all right, as we say around here, go Frogs. Thanks, everybody.